we do.
What are those technologies?
Oh, we have magnetic, gravity, electromagnetic methods.
Wow.
It's become such a garbage bag of terms used everywhere that it's difficult to talk about it rationally.
It's getting to the point, not in my lifetime, sort of carry on.
Let alone mine. The world consumes 130, 150 billion tonnes of stuff every year, and it all comes from mining.
Do you think we'll see a drop in the gold price anytime soon?
Yeah, this is a problem. Copper, lead, zinc, iron, aluminium, etc., silver, moly.
Imagine where you'd be now.
Who knows? So one thing I say to people about Trump, current administration, is, he's the best thing that's ever happened to mining.
Welcome back to another episode on the Gold Room podcast. Today, lucky enough to have Dave Lawie, Chief Geoscientist from IMDEX. Mate, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks, Josh, for the opportunity to come in and have a chat.
Not a problem. You like the little introduction, mate?
Yeah, that was good. It was clean. It was quick.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. That's what we want around here. No mucking around. Anyway, as you know, mate, we start with the life and the times. So let's get into the life and the times of Dave Lawie.
Yeah, so you might say that between starting on this world and ending up here, it's been fairly non-linear.
Yep.
Which I'm sure it has been for a lot of your guests that you've had on here. I'm a Geelong boy. Originally grew up in Geelong, still barracked for the Cats. It's been an interesting 20 years, more positive than negative.
Yep.
Thank goodness I'm not a Freo supporter. That's all I'll say.
Thank goodness I'm not either, mate.
Yeah. Very good. But I grew up in Geelong. That was all fine. Grew up there. Went to uni. Started off in engineering, actually.
Mining engineering?
No, electrical engineering.
Oh, nice.
Did that for a couple of years.
Didn't enjoy it?
I was a fairly wild lad in my younger years, and by the end of second year, I was invited to leave the university rather than having a record put against my name.
Okay.
And I claim that to this day was my best business deal I've ever done in my life.
Really?
Was to just leave and have a clean record rather than have it sticking around, given now that I'm a PhD in geoscience. But after that, then went into a trade, actually, to Shell Refinery in Geelong, an instrument technician.
Oh, wow.
Which is a wonderful 4 years, actually. Yeah.
Some amazing dudes that I know are instrumentation technicians, mate. I'm actually an instrumentation technician myself, but I didn't do the big 4-year course.
Yeah.
Somehow over all these years, and I think it's just because now we're a throwaway society, no need to recalibrate anything, or not very often. It's just plug and play and heart communication, and it's now a 2-week. Do you know it's a 2-week course? So you get your Sparky trade, and then you do a 2-week bloody course and a little bit of paperwork, and you're Cert 4 Instro.
Right. I don't know if I'd let someone like that go in an oil refinery, though.
Probably not, mate. But that's everyone these days.
But look, it was a great time. It was fascinating. If I have a predilection with things, and my growing up would be to fix things rather than getting someone else to do it myself. So certainly being a tradie in that time was great. I learned a lot from the old tradies that were my mentors at the time. So it was a really good time. But one thing I worked out when I was doing it was, I didn't really, although I loved what I was doing, I didn't want to spend the rest of my life working in oil refineries. And I had offers for Shell to go and put me back through to do chemical engineering, send me to The Hague, do all these sorts of things.
Wow.
So it was one point in my life where I threw in a perfectly good career opportunity with a multinational company. It was the first time I've done it.
Imagine where you'd be now.
Who knows? Right? Who knows? But then went back to uni. That's where I end up being. That's why I'm here now, because I went back to university. But again, not to do geology. I went back to do natural resource management. So it was sort of forestry and groundwater and water and things like that. Soil science, even a bit of agriculture in it, which I enjoyed that as well. But because I had credits from my previous studies, and you did geoscience in the second year of that degree, I did it in my first year. I did not know the first thing about geology, literally nothing. So I rocked up to university. This is the University of New England now in Armidale in northern New South Wales, beautiful part of the world.
Yep.
Not many people know about it, but rocked up there, and we had a lecturer there. He's dead now, but Barry McKelvey, and he had an Antarctic medal. He used to go to Antarctica every 2 years on geoscience expeditions. So you sat there in first year, and all he did was show you slides of Antarctica. I was gone. That was it. I was done. Then I was going to become a geologist after that. So I changed degrees then into science so I could concentrate on geology. But so I went through and did that. Having stuffed up my first go at university, my parents had said, well, you're putting yourself through this time. So the structure of the course at UNE was very good. I could go out working in between semesters and units and things like that. So I used to go out and do a lot of geophysical work in the bush or work around the gold mines doing sampling, including in Kalgoorlie. That was an interesting summertime for a young man.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Hot. And then
bottom of a pit,
yep.
blast hole sampling,
Yep.
the sorts of things which I think everyone should do in their life, maybe once or maybe for a month, character building stuff.
Yep.
Certainly,
hard work, mate.
Oh, it's hard work and it's hot and it's uncomfortable.
Yep.
But I think...
Bit of resilience built, though.
Oh, absolutely. And, I think when we get further into talking about this, I mean, geoscience and exploration is not for everyone. I often say that. It's and it should and does attract fairly intrepid sort of people who don't mind getting out of their comfort zone and travelling and being in the middle of nowhere for extended periods of time to do something which is really fundamentally massively interesting. So I just regard all of that as a learning experience. I went through, did all of that. I got to the end of it, but because I had a trade and I was a bit older, by now I was a mature age student, I didn't want to go into the industry as a generalist. I wanted to go in as a specialist. So that was another decision point, I suppose. So then I did the PhD and I specialised in geochemistry at the time. Could have been geophysics either way. I've always been attracted to the numerate side, if you like, of geoscience, like the numbers and measurements and things you can apply to the rocks to make the rocks speak, as I often say. Did that, and then, like a lot of PhD students, I got involved in a mining company out the back of Broken Hill in the Curnamona region.
Who was it?
That was Pasminco at the time, which no longer exists, but they were a large integrated zinc exploration, mining and smelting company, global. It was a great company, actually. It's a shame that it went under. Went under for a multitude of reasons, but we won't go into that. But I was out there, and Pasminco got me into the office in Broken Hill because they were drilling out the place called the Banatry Ridge, and they had hit gold, actually, and they could not work out why the gold was where it was in the air core drilling. And it was just perplexing. They didn't know if it was tertiary or Proterozoic, so they didn't know if it was 30 million years old or billions of years old. So,
wow.
So that's quite an impact on how you go about finding more of it. And so they asked me to come into the office, and I did something. We'll probably talk about data and AI eventually, but I did something very old-fashioned. And I got out the chip trays and unpacked them and lined them all up on the bench like you do, and in the order that they were drilled and in the geographic pattern. And looking through them, I could work out, just looking across and what I'd been doing my PhD work, that it was actually a paleo channel.
Wow.
And that had a massive impact on the prospectivity, whether Pasminco was even interested in it or not. Really, that's by the by. It got me a job.
Yeah. So they carry on exploring for gold?
Copper and gold. The target was always copper, was always base metals, but they continued working out there, and in fact to find the Portia prospect, which is where that gold is from. It's been mined now, and there are other areas out there like Havilah. Havilah is now working out there. They've done a joint venture with someone, I can't remember their name now, but to bring that big copper resource into production.
Awesome. That's still going today?
Yes,
Beautiful.
they are. This is 30 years ago, 35 maybe.
Wow.
Maybe years ago, but that was Pasminco. So that was, lots of those things are formative. Pasminco literally went under through, there's a few decisions that the zinc price created at the time. I've lived through many crashes in the industry, and that was just another one. And the zinc was below $1,000 a tonne. The company had bought some assets around the world when the zinc was on a tear, so it paid a lot for it. And at the time, which is sort of even relevant these days, is whenever the zinc price got very high, the Chinese could turn on a lot of small mines and a lot of small smelters and actually undercut the price and flood the market. So a lot of these things happened at that time. And the company went under. So I was retrenched. So there was another event in your life.
Good little redundancy payout?
For me at the time, yes. We still have some furniture in our house now that we bought 30 years ago, basis of the redundancy.
Nice.
I often say to people, a couple of redundancies in your professional career are pretty actually lucrative things if you can get another job, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
But I finished up in Pasminco on the Friday and started with Anglo-American on the Monday.
Right.
Again, in hindsight, talking to people who listen, so I'd say if you're going to do that, I'd have at least 2 weeks off.
Yeah, definitely.
In between, go and do something that's not work for a couple of weeks just to...
Well, some people will do that. Some people just want to get straight back into it.
But then started with Anglo, and that was fantastic. So these jobs I've had at the time, they were both sort of principal global geochemist type roles. So I've always worked, when I've been working professionally, internationally. So both those roles were international. And One of the things about working in global exploration is you get to see parts of the world which no one gets to see. I mean, you're at the back of the Andes.
Wow.
I was just talking to Dimitri about visiting Norilsk in Siberia, out the back of deepest, darkest Africa. You get to see all these things, but and people say it must be fantastic. I say absolutely it is, but I've seen so few tourist traps around the world, but I've seen plenty of the world.
Yep.
And one of the really fantastic things about that sort of travel is you're with people, obviously, and often with the locals that you're working with, and you get invited back to their houses and homes
Amazing.
and have dinner with them or sit around a fire in the middle of the Carajás in the Amazon rainforest drinking caipirinhas with the locals, things like that. It's just a life experience, which I think is just absolutely invaluable.
Yeah, definitely. So, Dave, at what point did you realise that geology wasn't just going to be a job, it was something that you wanted to build a career around?
So let's talk about exploration, really, global exploration. So the more I learn about geology, the more fascinating you get with it, because it's applying science to a very uncertain environment, right?
A bit exciting, right?
And it is exciting. So I often say to young people when talking about geoscience and exploration, say, tell me another job where you come up with your own idea, you come up with your own hypothesis, and you can go to your boss and ask for $500,000, $1 million, $2 million to go and prosecute it and find out whether you're right or not. And then most likely fail, and then go and do it again. I just don't know another job on the planet that allows you to do that. So what
someone's going to be asking questions.
Yeah. So what could be more exciting than that? And if you wind forward to today, the requirement for stuff, for metals, for materials, just keeps going up and to the right. When I talk to people about these things and the requirement for what we do as an industry, and I think the mining industry globally is just it has bad patches, but it is just an amazing industry for what it gets done. The world consumes 130, 150 billion tons of stuff every year, and it all comes from mining.
And it's always growing.
And it's always up and to the right. We have, you might look at the Western countries and economies and, per person we consume so many kilograms of this and that. Most of the world is not at that level, and they will want to and should be able to get to that level. So mining has a most amazing job that it's done so far, but has a lot more work to do. And so to get there, we're going to need the new technology. We need not just people working in our industry. We need the best and we need the brightest working in our industry. So I'm very clear about that. I often say we don't just need people. We need really, really good people.
How do you think we do that?
Well, I think articulating stories like this at just the level of excitement and just the story I just told you about, the ability to go and spend $1 million testing an idea, go and do that somewhere else.
I love that.
But you also need to be a bit, that word again, intrepid, right? You need to have a natural curiosity and a desire to do something. When I really first started thinking about geoscience, I was never particularly interested in gold, although I've done a lot of work in gold. But if you go back to my tradie background, I wanted to help find and mine things that were useful, right? Copper, lead, zinc, iron, aluminium, et cetera, silver, moly, antimony, arsenic, all those sorts of things. More so than gold, rather than spend a lot of money finding something and sticking it immediately underground. My views on that changed because the gold industry is actually half the industry.
She's fair pumping.
Yeah,
right now.
and it is absolutely pumping at the moment, and so it's created a lot of wealth for Australia and the rest of the world, which is a good thing. And in fact, you might say gold's not particularly useful, but it's actually providing a bit of a hedge, I think, for the global economy now against all sorts of other weird things that are going on. So in fact, quite useful, I think, at the moment to prop a lot of things up.
Do you think we'll see a drop in the gold price anytime soon? Certainly doesn't seem that way, does it?
Who knows? I mean, it's interesting to speculate. I mean, the gold price at the moment is just unbelievable, obviously. But if it was to drop a third overnight, would it be a disaster?
Probably
most likely not. Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Things should still be cranking along, and people
Exactly.
should be still making a lot of money. A lot of people should still be looking for it. So
Yeah.
it would get sold as a disaster if it did happen, but I just don't think it should be.
No. I think you're right. You talk to gold juniors out there, and even gold juniors, mid tiers, their cost to produce per ton is ridiculous, or per ounce is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they can certainly carry on.
Well, the current prices, yes. I mean, when the gold price goes up, normally the input costs track it, but the gold price has gone up so fast that not even the inputs have been able to track that, so which is a good thing. It gives them some room to play. The other commodity I like thinking about a lot is copper, and that's only just starting to move now.
We don't. There's not around the world. There's not enough. Well, from what I've been reading, there's not enough copper deposits or to sustain what we're going to need in like by 2035. I read somewhere.
Yeah, this is a problem. And this is where I think another role, well, doing podcasts like this, another important component is educating people. And, you know, I go to a lot of events. I've been to a mining financial event in New York the last couple of years. It comes up again in May. And even talking to people in those forums, they don't quite get, the economists, the politicians, don't quite get that there's no tap you go and turn on. So if we want more copper, we'll just get it. You know, there's a 15 to 20 year lag between wanting it and getting it. And then people will say, even the mining industry say, well, you know, we can just turn on more brownfields copper operations and things like that to add to supply. But even that tap is getting stuck now. And BHP made a comment late last year that people talk about the capital cost per tonne of copper that you bring in to the market. And that number has been floating around $20,000 US dollars per tonne. It's getting up $40,000 US dollars per tonne, and the price of copper was around $10,000 per tonne. So that's all. None of that really works with what you just said about a copper supply gap opening up. There's no financial incentive really to do anything about it now. And the other thing I often call the Schrodinger's, right, or how can all these things be true at the same time, is that the price to bring greenfields and brownfields copper into production per tonne, the capital intensity of those is also now more or less the same thing, which is a real surprise to me. So we have a problem, but it's only just now that the copper price is moving. I think it's up around $13,000 US dollars per tonne. And Duncan Walblow, the Anglo CEO, he said in the middle of last year that to incentivise companies to do anything about it, we need to be at $15,000. So we're still not there. So if the price of copper goes up, it's a good thing because it will incentivise this activity, but it doesn't mean that in 12 months there'll be a tap, which is by a miracle unstuck, and we can have more copper or all the copper that we need.
Yeah.
Now
I suppose they do a lot of recycling as well with copper.
Yeah, but we're already pretty efficient at recycling copper. It already contributes 10 or 15% of total copper demand per annum. And we're pretty good at it. The problem with copper is it's so good that it goes into applications that stay there for 100 years. And a lot of that is, you know, the growth rate in the world's use of copper has a compound annual growth rate of about 3%, which means it more or less doubles every 25 years. And it's been doing that for over 100 years, just decade after decade after decade. And that's without any data centers, without EVs, without energy transition. It was already doing that. And so then we add all of these new requirements for copper on top of that, and other metals as well, of course, including the rare earths, the critical metals, all the rest of it. So the end result of all of that is that we have a problem. And the other thing that's going on in the world now, and it's sort of a bit of a fight between the Chinese axis and the Western axis in a way, or especially the US, is we have, global economies are moving towards electron-based economies, so electricity to power everything. That is the way to unlock growth and productivity, whereas, the US administration doubling down on natural gas, oil and coal. Only one of those things is going to win out in 10 years, and it will be the moving of electrons, and that will require all of these metals, if you like. So the world will transition into just needing more and more.
What do you think about nuclear energy?
Indeed, there's one country on the earth which has really, really made building nuclear power stations very efficient and cost effective.
South Korea.
And China.
Yep.
Yeah, those two. They can do it. There's only been one built in the US for the last few decades, actually. And the Palms in the UK, they've got one that we're almost finished off now.
Is that Westinghouse?
No, not Westinghouse. I don't know who built it, but the cost is about £70 billion and it's taken about 30 years to do it. So I don't have a problem per se with nuclear energy. I just look at it and go, well, economically, it's hard to make a case for it. And if you look at a place like Australia, if you think, yeah, okay, we'll build some, you think of all the red tape, all of the time it would take, the capital.
25 plus years.
At least, right? 25, 30 years. And the government will have to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that I look and go, well, no private company is going to stump up the capital to pay for that, because in 30 years, the technology that will be around to supply energy in the form of electricity will be almost unrecognisable what it is today. If you think about battery storage technologies, we're really only getting going with that. And it's hard to imagine, but something will happen in the next 30 years that makes just the storage side so much more efficient and so much more cost effective that no private company is going to stump up $30 billion to build a nuclear power station. So the economist in me says, well, if a private company won't stump up to do it, what business does the government have stumping up to do it?
Right.
Yeah. So it's a capital efficiency, it's a time lag, and the technology is changing so rapidly at the moment. By the time we got it built, it would probably just be a stranded asset or a pink elephant. If we could turn one on in 5 years, I think that would be an entirely different conversation.
Yeah. I think some of the information I've read out coming out of South Korea, there's lots of people disagree, but some of those small modular reactors might be great for, for powering small little sites, remote sites that might work. But certainly building a large nuclear power station is certainly off the cards due to red tape, due to government red tape. And even if we do get a change in government in 3 years' time and they say, look, let's explore nuclear energy, still another 5 years or 4 years, even after signing the relevant documentation, and then the 10 to 15 years to build something. It's
a long time, isn't it?
It's a long time. It's it's getting to the point, not in my lifetime, sort of carry on.
Let alone mine.
Which is, a little bit scary on, isn't it?
I'd sometimes make a joke that with the AUKUS agreement, we're going to back up these submarines and just plug them into the power grid and just use them for power.
Well, I mean, there'd be a few people disgruntled about that. You keep the greenies happy.
Maybe. I think they'd be quite conflicted about that.
Well, they would, but at the end of the day, when they can't turn their aircon on, they get rid of all the gas-powered power stations, gas-fired power stations, and coal, and they're complaining that their fridges won't run.
Yeah,
no one's going to be happy about that.
No one's happy when the power goes out.
No. Mate, so you've worked in academia, you've worked out in the field, obviously. You love the bloody field. Where's your favourite place to be in Australia?
Oh, in Australia. That's a good question.
Actually, give me your favourite place to be as a geo in Australia and then internationally.
I can't forget where I did a lot of my formative training, where I was doing my PhD, which is in the Curnamona, which is you've got to drive towards Adelaide from Broken Hill.
Okay.
It's a little place called O'Leary, and then turn right and drive for about 150 kilometres, and you are in the middle of nowhere. And I used to call it God's own country. It's,
beautiful.
You could just pull over there, and the place was flat as a tack. You could see the O'Leary Ranges right on the distance on the horizon. And you just be out there and just middle of absolutely nothing. No trees either, right?
Wow.
Just no trees, just small saltbush. But I grew to love the place. And, doing a field work in an area like that and coming back to the shearers' quarters and lighting a fire, and then, the actually ultimate best experience would be, I think the Test cricket was on in South Africa. So you pull the car up and turn on the AM radio, which would fade in and out, and listen to the Test cricket while you're drinking some beers or cask wine or whatever it was, smoking some Champion Rubies, all the things you shouldn't be doing in the middle of the bush. I think that was just an amazing experience.
Yeah, beautiful.
And then internationally, I think, South America just has some of the most amazing geomorphology and geology. I mean, you can drive out of Lima and in 5 hours be literally at 5,000 metres above sea level.
Wow.
And that's quite a shock to the system. And
mate, I was last year in October, I was at 5,500 metres in Nepal.
Well, it's not easy.
No, it's not. Enjoyable.
We got out of the car at 4,900 metres, and I looked at the map and I said, that little bump there is at 5,000. Let's walk up there to say I've been there.
How'd you go?
No.
You didn't go?
No, it started walking because had left Lima that morning, right?
Yep.
So there was no acclimatisation involved. I said, no, that's fine. We won't do that.
Yep.
There's lots of places come to mind. Working out the back near Flin Flon up in Manitoba, wearing snowshoes, drilling ice cores out to send them off for geochemical analysis. Things like being in Namibia, collecting rocks around there, drilling out giant termite nests in the DRC to send them off for analysis.
Wow.
Even work on the west coast of Tassie. That's a pretty intrepid place. Sort of.
Yeah. What are they drilling for down in Tassie?
Copper, zinc, and lead.
Okay.
Yeah, the prospectivity on the west coast of Tasmania is really quite amazing. But that was the Pasminko era. We did a giant soil sampling program on there, 30 or 40,000 samples. So we had these guys that would go out, tigers would come out and they'd cut the sampling
Tassie
lines.
tigers, mate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thylacines.
Yeah, just as rough and robust people.
Yeah, beautiful.
If you're going to be cutting lines in that rainforest through that terrain, it's pretty amazing stuff.
Mate, next one I've got for you is great technology comes from great people. It sounds like something out of bloody Spider-Man, that little bloody snippet there, doesn't it? You've seen drilling, you've seen exploration. What does the future hold for, and I'm not just talking about AI, I'm just talking about advances in technology that you've seen, and where do you think we're heading?
I think if there's one theme since I've been in the industry, it would be moving the measurement and the analysis closer to the activity in the field. It's taken a while, decades. We're still not completely there yet. But I think the ability to collect the data as we're working is a fundamental shift in the industry. And I think, if anything, it's been a slow burn, been going on for a while, but I think it's accelerating now. Certainly at IMDEX, where I'm now, we're very interested in this. So anything.
What sort of equipment are you using out in the field?
There's quite a few. So with my IMDEX hat on, we're interested in anything that goes down the drill hole and can take measurements and analysis, be it where did the drill hole go, a fairly fundamental question. And over the years, that's not been done very well. Yep. But while the drill rig...
A drill hole's not running straight?
No, they curve around and if you weren't careful and kept drilling, it would pop up out of the ground, a kilometre behind you, things like that. So drill holes deviate, and so you need to know how they're deviating, where they're going, measure that. It's a known thing. You can control it, but they will deviate, and you need to know where the drill hole went. So we have a lot of technology that allows people to work out, to keep the hole on track, if you like, using directional drilling, and also to know where the hole went in a very precise way. Now that might say, well, surely that's just 101, but that's not been that easy to achieve until about the last 5 or 10 years. There are other technologies around. So explorations. I often say to people, exploration's hard enough without stuffing up the drilling program, right? Which is happens more often than it should, actually. So you go
out to use a great drilling company, right?
Yeah. Use a good drilling company. Use good gear. Use good planning. Intervene where you need to keep the program on track. Another bugbear of mine, I suppose, is that one thing that doesn't get measured or costed with exploration programs is time. So if you lose time, you've lost it forever. I call it the one commodity that we don't value enough in life.
It's very true, yeah.
In life, let alone with what we're doing for work. So if you plan a drill program and you say it's going to take 6 months, but if you get there and you can't get the access, you haven't done the permitting properly, the drilling program doesn't go to plan, you hit rocks you didn't expect, you bog the rods, you lose fluid circulation, you can't get the measurements you want. You have to pack up and come back next year, and there may be some parts of the world you just can't drill 12 months a year. You might
weather,
pack up, go home, come back when things either freeze or thaw, whatever way you're going about it. And you add 12 months to the program. So adding 12 months, you've burnt through a lot of cash and not answered the question, which you could have done 12 months ago. So there's the cost of the time. There's also the opportunity cost. So if you'd achieved drilling that program in the first 12 months, you may have answered the question, and you could be off somewhere doing something else to increase your chances of success. So I think pushing technology into the field that allows you to get the data you need to make the decisions you need to make then, and making sure you get the materials that you're looking for in the course of drilling the program when you said you would. I think they sound basic, but they can have an enormous impact on the efficiency of what we do in our world.
Okay.
And I think we're too we're too permissive in letting things go awry or astray, or not collecting the right data at the right time to allow us to make that decision. So, I often say to people, when you're designing exploration programs, what is your greatest source of variance or unknown? What don't you know? Obviously you have a thesis, you've developed a thesis in your own mind using your geoscience background. Then you're going to go and drill a hole. Where are you going to put it? What question do you want to answer? Where do I drill the hole? And what do I collect to give me the greatest chance of answering that question the first time? Now, again, that might sound like a fairly obvious thing to think through, but often it isn't quite thought about quite like that.
Mate, let's get into your role at IMDEX.
Mm-hmm.
It's you're right at the tippity top. So what does a day in the life of Dave look like at IMDEX?
Yeah, talking to a lot of people.
Yeah.
So IMDEX has come a long way. I'm not saying it's all due to me by any means, but
How long have you been there? 13 years?
13 years. So I'll just go back a bit. So I left, another decision point was leaving Anglo-American to go and start a company with my good friend, still friend,
Awesome.
Stephen Winter. When we
Is
started,
he's still in the business?
No, he's not anymore.
Okay.
But, we caught up just prior to Christmas. But we started a company called IO Global. Now, again, threw away a perfectly good career-long corporate job in a multinational again to go and do something.
Got to risk it, mate.
To do something completely mad, actually, in hindsight. But at the end, we'll come back to this. But I say to young people, if you've got an entrepreneurial itch, scratch it.
For sure.
Just go and scratch it. Just get it out of your system, because if you don't, you'll be forever unhappy.
Imagine being 75 or 85 years old thinking, woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah, woulda,
but
coulda,
you
shoulda.
didn't.
Yeah.
What
But
a story to tell.
having said that, it's not for everyone. And,
For sure.
But, did it and spent 9 years building that company up until it was acquired by IMDEX right at the end of 2012, right at the top of the peak at
Beautiful.
that time.
Because bloody May 2013, she wasn't great, was it?
No, it wasn't. So you could say the timing was excellent. But one reason IMDEX bought IO Global was to bring a lot of geoscience, more direct geoscience heft and expertise and the Rolodex into the company. IMDEX is a very international company. That makes sense. But
Not to be confused with IMPEX. And I'm
not INPEX.
They're not IMPEX at all, not big, large oil and gas.
No, we're a large minerals company,
That's right.
minerals mining technology company. So it's 30. So since then, really, the remit of what the company does has just been steadily expanding and getting. When we first joined, the customers were always the drill companies, the drillers all around the world, literally all around the world. I mean, we invoice in over 120 countries every year to this day.
That's a bit of fun.
A lot of fun for the finance people.
Yeah, for sure.
So we are truly global. We book most of our revenue in the Americas, and then EMEA, and then Asia Pac after that. So we're headquartered in Perth for sure, but truly international. But then
as every great mining company should be, mate. Right here in God's country.
A lot of technologies come out of Perth.
Yep.
Right? You would say a disproportionate amount of technologies come out of Perth in the mining industry.
Why do you think that is? Great universities, great people.
Good question.
Great weather.
It's an attractive place to come to.
Yep.
Yeah, give it that for sure. Now, I think it's necessity is the mother of invention. Right. So I think the sort of people that work in the industry, and there are a lot of them obviously in Perth, see the opportunities. And being out in the Wild West, it's a fairly entrepreneurial mindset in the first place. So lots of people have seen opportunities and built things for the industry just because of where they are and what they're exposed to. And I think the sort of people they're around as well. I say, that intrepid mindset, well, that's a thing in Perth as well, in the mining industry. Thank goodness, it's great. And so much of it's been successful and has made its way out and back around the world. We're well known for it. We're a global company. We're worth almost $2 billion now in the ASX.
Wow.
But we sometimes wind up the state government and ask them, don't just assume this stuff keeps going. Why don't you get behind the industry and support it some more?
Kind of like what the bloody United States government's doing right now.
Correct.
What should the Australian government be doing?
So
Following in the footsteps of the United States? Maybe not the exact same footsteps as President Trump?
So this is a very interesting comment. So one thing I say to people about Trump, the current administration, is, he's the best thing that's ever happened to mining, period.
For sure.
Now, for a few different reasons, and I've been talking about geopolitics and supply chains for years, and the stranglehold that obviously China has, not just on the mining the materials, but processing, extracting, smelting, etc. Has a complete stranglehold and has had, and worked diligently at it for 30 years. And so I've been banging on about this for about 5 years, saying the Western world was just walking into a bear trap, blind. And
Kind of like what
see.
everybody did with manufacturing. You know, everyone 30 years ago, I've said this so many times on here, it's getting ridiculous.
Yeah.
But we gave manufacturing away 30 years ago.
Yes.
And then now people complain that we don't manufacture anything here.
Yeah. And so you lose the capability and the skill sets to do it. So there are many examples. Like we invented solar panels, for example. We forget about that.
In Australia?
Yes, that technology.
Mate, I didn't know.
University of New South Wales. So.
Wow. I didn't know that. Far out, learn something new every day. I like that.
It's a new podcast. But the geopolitics of supply chains is really important, actually. And I often make the thing that if you've got a shoe factory and it's in China, well, you can move it to Vietnam. But if you've got a mine of some sort, you just can't move it. It is where it is. You're stuck with the local geopolitical situation. So that makes our industry fundamentally different to almost any other industry at the moment. So we are, by definition, caught up in geopolitical events.
All the time.
All the time.
We just had a guest on last week, and we were talking about the geopolitics of Africa.
Yeah.
54 countries.
Yeah.
And, what works in one country doesn't work in the other.
Yeah. It's a patchwork quilt and never assume one thing translates from one country to another.
Correct, yeah.
A big place. Which are opportunities, but they're also problems, right? It's a problem for us. I mean, I've heard people over the years talk about the political risk of operating in Australia. You sort of look at them and go, you've got to be joking. You've obviously never tried to work somewhere else in the world. Yeah. But this supply chain thing, so I've often said, especially with the big freely traded commodities, the copper, gold, iron, etc., they're more transparent and they're a bit more diffuse around the world. But when we get into the specialty metals that people often talk about now, called critical metals, then
hot topic, isn't it?
It is a hot topic, right? And the way that the Western industries operate financially could not sustain bringing a downstream processing capability into those metals, rare earths or others. Because one thing we forget is that the final markets are really quite small compared to, say, copper or iron or aluminium. And you could not make a financial case for it when you could just go and buy them on the open market, from China at a price that you just could not possibly.
China's locked up a lot of critical minerals though now, haven't they? They've said
they have.
Both to us. Tungsten was a great one that I spoke to someone about the other day, where China's just said, well, no, you can't have that, you can't have that, you can't have that.
Yes.
So we need to be a bit more mindful of where our minerals are coming from, what we're doing to for the exploration, geology, looking at everything.
Yeah, so I think
if we ruin the supply chain, if the supply chain's gone from China, what do we do? Who else do we reach out to? Because everyone's wanting to reach out to us now.
So I think the only way out of this is a 5 to 10 year journey. So the Western sphere, whatever that is anymore, I mean, people are questioning it every week now. But if you want to call it the Western sphere, it needs to reestablish that whole supply chain. And the only way to do it is for the governments to get involved and underwrite it, which is starting to happen now. And that's one of the things the American administration is doing, is they're offering, floor prices and offtake agreements and things like that. Because if you just leave it to the open market, it just can't cope with it. It doesn't make any financial sense. But if you don't have it either, then that does make financial sense in a negative way. So you need some mechanism to think about these problems beyond the next election cycle. You need to be able to think about that 5 to 20 year long time frame and say, okay, as a group of countries, we're going to reestablish this supply chain, and the government needs to get behind it and build it, help us build it.
I think that's what Trump is doing.
Yes,
isn't
yes,
it?
it is.
But
he could do it in a slightly different way by not. I mean, he could
be a little bit more diplomatic.
Right, that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah,
like he could have, rather than picking on Canada, for example, he could have said, look, between Canada, Australia, Japan, and the US, just those alone, there is the capability to solve every last problem in the supply chain. We have it all. We just need the ability to
he's
build the
very
downstream
shortly going to
process.
acquire Canada and Greenland and everywhere else that he wants. Well, anyway, we don't talk about politics, religion, or bad quarterly reports. So we won't go into
Fair
any
enough.
more of that. Have been reading the news, and the Greenland thing looks freaky.
It does look freaky, but a discussion for a glass of wine.
For sure. Nice big glass of red. Mate, data versus intuition as a geo.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I think intuition, that's hypothesis testing. So
Is that like a gut feeling? Or you've looked at some chip samples and you're like, shit,
you could talk to geologists about this for years. The gut feeling, the intuition, the art. I call it the art of geoscience. The art. It's a really difficult thing to think through like that. But I think you need to start from somewhere. You need to have an idea. And I think a computer isn't going to give you the starting idea or hypothesis yet. But if
don't get into the AI because I've got one coming up here.
Yeah, I know. So I think you generate the hypothesis. You have something you want to test, and then you go and talk to your boss. I want to test this idea. Then you need to think about what is the data that I need, which either invalidates or supports the hypothesis that I had. That's a really important step in the process because you've got to be able to answer the question. You're spending the money to do something to
and
find
a hell of
something.
a lot of money.
And a hell of a lot of money. And so, in junior companies, you're putting the entire company at risk. At bigger ones, you're putting your reputation at risk or whatever you're doing. So to really think through that in a deep way, and the answer, what you do in response to that may not be what you initially think. So you may go to your boss and say, look, I've got this idea. Normally we would do X, but I don't think that's going to answer the question. We'll just end up drilling another 3 holes to get there. But if we drill this other type of hole from this direction at this angle, we wedge off it, we do some directional drilling, we have one pad, we reduce the environmental footprint and all this stuff. So it's going to cost us more. Might cost us 50% more in the first phase, but we'll know what's there. We'll know whether we keep going because we've answered these questions, or we know whether to walk away or farm it out to someone else or do something else with it. So I think that, if you think about that, the training gives you the hypothesis to test when you look at everything that exists, and then go and acquire what you need to answer that question.
Yeah, okay. What are we doing in the way of smarter exploration? Are we using, what are we doing in regards to AI, artificial intelligence out there in the industry?
Yeah, I knew we had to get to this point. So a couple of preceding comments about AI. So it's become such a garbage bag of terms used everywhere that it's difficult to talk about it rationally. So
most people if we're to be honest about AI, most people just think ChatGPT and reformatting a bloody email.
Yeah.
What are we doing in the mining industry?
Yeah.
And a lot of the big mining companies actually have said, they've shut off access to ChatGPT on their servers, made sure that everything's locked out because people were just inputting all of their information in and seeing what results. And you don't want that for security reasons. You don't want that access. But I do think that companies, there should be allowable access for people to use that. What do you think?
Yeah, so there are ways of doing it. I mean, it certainly tortures the IT departments in big companies for sure, and rightfully so.
I think BHP and Rio have shut it down.
Yeah, but they can establish
MRL, I think, as well.
Yeah, you can ring fence it. You can bring it inside. There are ways of dealing with it. But to come back to the AI, if you get away from the language model thing, which is what people have been talking about the last 2 or 3 years, the industry has been using AI, if you call that machine learning, analytics, even quantum measurement systems have been using for decades. So
what's quantum?
So quantum sensing, using quantum effects to do near-field measurements in geophysics to detect physical properties, detect conductors at great depth or chargeable sulfides, pyrites, things like that. So the industry has been on the bleeding edge of that sort of technology since its existence, actually, because the price is so high to find something, and we're constantly trying to see into the earth using these various methods. So we've been around it for a long time. But that's not to say that the new generation of AI won't have an impact on the industry from a technology point of view rather than just organising documents and answering emails and things like that. There's a whole branch of AI now which is related to language models. You just call it transformer models. So people are starting to bring that technology, which Google developed initially, then ChatGPT developed it further, but I think Google's about to go back in the front there. But that transformer technology is starting to be used on scientific problems. So if you want to call it a scientifically informed transformer-based AI, I think that's where things will start to get interesting, and that's in a very nascent state at the moment. And I think that has the ability to actually generate hypotheses, which you can then go and test. And I think that would be really interesting. We still, in geoscience at least, have the problem of a paucity of data. There's one thing in technology and what we do in the geology and mining is that our data is 3D. And in fact, in geoscience, it's 4D because it has a time dimension as things slip around, move around, I should say. Literally slip along faults. But dealing with things in 3D, it's very hard for people to conceive of 3D. You can hide a lot in a volume, and people don't quite get that. So there's lots of room in 3 dimensions for things that you don't expect. So trying to work out what's there and how to measure it is, you can do it, but it's too expensive. You can't measure everything everywhere. So we seek technologies which can, in a way, see into the earth. When that's fine, we do.
What are those technologies?
Oh, we have magnetic gravity, electromagnetic methods, a whole plethora of things, but they don't. The deeper you go, the less resolving the signal becomes. If you like, it becomes blurrier and blurrier the deeper you go. There's nothing to do about that. It's the laws of physics. So, but you can combine those data sets, and so the more of them, the blurrier they get. If you put 3 blurry things together, you can get a more solid outcome, if you like, because one reinforces the other. And we do a thing called an inversion. So we build what the subsurface looks like to give us the answer from the data we've collected at the surface. Now, none of these things are unique. You can come up with multiple versions of what's going on, give you the same signals you see at the surface. The problem of non-uniqueness, it's a bugger. Hence we drill.
Yep.
So where do you drill a hole to?
You've got more of an idea though, don't you?
Oh yeah, no, you don't drill at random. So there was an article in the bloody. Oh, here we go. The swearing will start.
No, mate, no, don't worry about that. That's the least of our problems.
There was an article in The Economist just last year, just more or less implying that exploration drilling was a random process. It's a long way from random. It's this idiotic comment, actually. But there are technologies and measurement systems we use like that to help inform the drilling process. Now, we have had them. They're not new. They've been around for a while. What's changing is the cost per acquisition is becoming less. We can use things like drone technology. There are some other types of quantum sensors now which we can start to measure the same things we've always measured but with other sensors, which can give us increased precision, accuracy, rate of data collection. So things like that are gradually improving, but at the end of the day, we call it the truth probe. You've got to put a drill hole into it. No one believes you can use all of that stuff, but no one believes what's there until you put a drill hole into it, and fair enough as well.
Mate, what's IMDEX doing with ESG and efficiency?
Yeah, no, so that's a big thing for us, actually. I actually sat on a panel.
How do you do that? Sorry. How do you do that across all of these countries that you're dealing with?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've had more uptake of some of our ESG relevant technologies outside of Australia. You would think Australia would be all over this stuff, not necessarily so. So we have things called solids removal units, SRUs in short, and they allow you to recycle the water you're pumping down a diamond drill hole. So you can drill without a sump.
Wow.
And you can, which is a big thing, right?
Yeah, for sure. Everywhere, every drill rig I've driven past, there's a sump there right next to it.
Yeah, and you can go and find a dead kangaroo in them, things like this, right? So you lose water and you have a sump there which needs to be remediated. So there are some parts in the world won't let you drill with a sump.
New Zealand.
Yep, up in the North Island, yes. So they use our SRUs up there.
And Waihi Gold?
Yep.
There you go.
Yep, absolutely.
They're going to be doing a lot more drilling down the South Island as well. So I can only imagine you get a bit more business out of those buggers.
It just makes so much sense when you see one of these things running. No, when you see a drill site,
you've got a video.
Yeah, so people go to our website, they can see those.
Right, we'll actually chuck it in this episode right while we're talking about it, mate.
Yep. In the US, for example, in parts of the US, it depends what state you're in. If you're drilling there, if you have an exploration permit, you're only allowed to disturb so much percentage of that permit. So if you can use SRUs, you have less site disturbance, less water carting, not less water trucks, less water carting. You don't need the same infrastructure bringing trucks in and out. So that makes a material difference to what you can do on that property. So that's a genuine, that's a very straightforward ESG application. The other one is being able to drill from a single drill pad without needing to make more drill pads. So we have the technology now that you can enter if you like, drill the first hole from a drill pad and then branch off from that, like in oil and gas. This is bread and butter stuff in the oil and gas world. But we now have the ability to deviate holes from a single pad and actually go almost wherever you want and get multiple pierce points without shifting the rig. So that also has a massive...
Core drilling is
this is core drilling, yeah.
Core Drilling's doing the company, drilling company, Core Drilling, they're doing a bloody great job of that.
Mm-hmm. So directional drilling from a single pad is a underutilized technology.
Yep.
And then I think the other thing to think about ESG is there's a community, and this is getting better actually, there's a community recognition that we need to do this to have that. Right. So that's uneven around the world for sure. But the up and to the right, the 130 billion tons of stuff. If you want your lifestyle, then you want all of this stuff, and you want energy transition, and you want data centers, then this is what we need to do. There's no shortcutting it. If you're going to work in the extractive industries, we simply need to find stuff.
Yeah.
Now, on a more going out further into the future, you could argue that big open cut mines and things on that will be less acceptable time, and I think that's absolutely true, and for a good reason. They've worked for 100 years now, but they're sort of getting to the end of that. Just the environmental footprint, which is enormous, the power required to extract the metals at such extremely low grades from extremely giant volumes of rock and using bigger and bigger trucks. I think we're almost at the end of that now. Yep. So I think what you'll see as things go forward, again, comes back to drilling, will be in situ extraction of some of these metals. So if you like... I don't want to use the word fracking, I'm trying to think of another word, but for metals, a fracking type technology for metals. And one of the things that's going on in the world of...
Well, they do that with uranium.
Yes, but that's different. It's not different. It's a very, very specific application.
Yeah, only for specific ground conditions.
Yes, very, very specific ground conditions.
When speaking to Jonathan Fisher about that, I was shocked that they were able to drill and extract uranium.
Yeah,
depending on the ground.
Yes, so the roll front uranium deposits, they're called, the ones that you can extract with in situ leaching. They're pretty tricky, right? Because they have very high in situ variability, as they're finding a honeymoon.
Once again, how do you know? Drilling, but still,
and it's horrible unconsolidated rock, which is why you can do the in situ extraction of the uranium. Flowing sands and black gunk and all sorts of things down there. So it's hard. But extracting copper from copper sulfides in hard rock, that's harder.
Okay.
But some of the technologies coming to the industry to meet it and meet this demand. And people have been steadily improving geothermal, right? So you need to break the rocks, fracture the rocks so you can either inject or recirculate water and heat it up and turn it into steam and power a turbine. But the technology to increase the ingress area of the water to heat it up and bring it back up is getting better and better and better. It's now better than what they use in fracking for unconventional oil and gas. And talking to an engineer in that area said, if we can make that 50 or make that half as good again or twice as good, we're almost getting to the point where we have solved one element of extracting, say, copper from copper sulfides at depth.
Beautiful.
So these things, I think, again, we spoke about the price of copper. Once you start going past $15,000 a tonne, then I think we get to the realm where these technologies get looked at really, really significantly.
Okay. Mate, what would you say to, after your glass of water, get ready for this one, what would you say to some future geoscientists? Or anyone looking at getting involved?
I would say if you want to see the world, have one of the most interesting jobs on the planet, almost literally, and do something important for the planet. If you want to see the energy transition looked after, you want to see all these materials available, if you want to electrify the world, if you want to help convert the global economy from a molecule to an electron economy, we need you. Just think about those old posters, and we need the best of your lot.
What age do you think we need to be targeting these young kids, and not just targeting them? What age do you think that obviously there's some great, we've got Core Learning Foundation, and they're going, Susie Urbanek and the team are going around and getting into schools and showing these young kids the STEM. What more can we be doing, do you think?
So I think even if you're showing young people, young primary school, right? So there are simple things.
That's where it starts.
Simple thing. I remember reading a survey in the US, and half of the young people thought that milk came from the supermarket. They had no concept of a cow. Right?
That's not great for the education system of the world.
It's not great, but it's worse with minerals, right? Because people actually have no concept of where everything comes from that makes everything that surrounds them at home and in the car, etc. Now, I think if you can get talking to young people around literally just where stuff comes from, like they may not necessarily enter the industry, but there's an increased awareness in the general population.
Maybe they're talking to their friends about it.
That's right, and this is a thing, right? And then they all grow up and they talk to them. They say, "What do you do?" "I work in exploration, looking for copper or whatever." I say, "Oh, that's cool. Yeah, we need that stuff." So that's easy to say, but that's a pretty big shift in what goes on around the schoolyards and even the universities.
Yeah.
And that's without talking about the fact it pays pretty well as well.
We won't get into what your bloody salary is, mate. That's for sure. Look, Dave, we've got in the next 10 years, looking into the future, what do you reckon drilling and exploration looks like?
I think we will complete the loop from doing the work to acquiring the data. So I think that's really important. We'll just close that loop and then speed up what happens next. So no more drilling, get the data, scratch your belly button, have a think about it, go to the pub, come back in 6 months and resume. I think that thought process will go out of the industry.
There's so many companies out there that are going back and looking over already broken ground.
So, and that's fine, right? Let's say, if you find something, often there's been 3, 4, 5 companies hold that ground before you.
Yeah.
This comes back to the three-dimensional thing. It's easy to hide a lot of mineral wealth in a three-dimensional volume, and for you to go and work there and miss it, actually. So I would say that we'll close that loop. The process, that there are people working on making the drilling process itself more efficient. I mean, there's a rate limiting step, even if your drilling is completely efficient with today's technology. Just things like changing rods and positioning the rig, everything just takes time, right? And you got to cut the rock, that just takes time. It goes so many meters per minute, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So there are people working on drilling technologies, just fundamentally changing the drilling technologies around the world. So there's people looking at laser-assisted ballistics, firing things into the ground, all sorts of weird ideas.
Wow.
Fracking things with using microwaves ahead of the bit. There's all sorts of things going on. Because that is, in a way, the rate-limiting step. So if you could drill an order of magnitude faster at an order of magnitude less cost, it would change the fundamental equation of exploration forever.
Wow.
Now, whether we get there in 10 years or not is a moot point, but we'll be some part of the way there. But I think
technology is just moving forward at such a great rate of knots.
Yeah, it's ironic, isn't it? Because as an industry, we don't have a great track record at adopting it.
No.
But in fact, I shouldn't say, in exploration is pretty good at adopting technology, actually, because it is, by definition, it's at the bleeding edge of knowledge and what's going on. So it's not bad. But then to bring that back into the resource development and then the mining sides of the companies is a fraught process, to say the least.
Would you say that mining companies are more for or against adopting new technologies?
So I'll answer that in a different way. I'll say that the people building the technologies aren't doing a good job of selling their benefit financially to the mining companies. I saw a funny
meme the other day on LinkedIn. Something along the lines of this guy staring at he owns the technology. This is a technology company, mining technology company, and then there's the mining technology company. Then there's the mining company on the bottom half of the picture saying, "Who are you?" No fucking idea.
It's quite a, there's that famous book, Crossing the Chasm for Technology Adoption.
Never read it.
It's one of the first and best books of, if people listening to this, I want to do something entrepreneurial, read that book. It's just fantastic. But it's very illustrative of the challenges of getting technology adopted into a mining company. As soon as you've got to change people's workflows or what they do every day, there's resistance, right? And, the old adage, I don't mind change, but just don't do it to me, do it to the guy next to me, right? Yeah. Just don't upset my working day. Thank you very much. And I think just mechanistically in the industry, especially in FIFO operations, when you've got people working, 12-hour shifts back to back, and then they're off a week, back a week, very hard to stick any sort of a change in workflow or operation into a work environment like that.
Well, if you looked at an 8 and 6 roster, then, four crews across that, you'd be needing to go out to train someone, to train a full department. You'd be looking at a month out on site.
Yes.
How many times can you do that? A year? 12. And then what?
Then you need people there 24 hours a day doing it for that month. And then there's the churn of the people that you're training, right? So it is, as soon as there's human in the loop for the adoption of the technology and make it useful, it just makes it incredibly, it's hard, right? It's just difficult. Yeah. And I think but that's one aspect. If the financials are believable and high enough, then it will get pushed through the company. But I think a lot of technology providers have trouble quantifying the dollar benefits of what they're doing. It's a bit, either, would you spend something to prevent something happening? We have these conversations. Well, if you collect this data, you prevent this asymmetric downside risk event happening. Doesn't mean it will happen, but you've got a much better chance it won't happen.
That's what mining companies do really well, is they're all about mitigating risk.
Yeah, prevention of things, which may or may not happen. But, on an individual, but some people really think about that, some don't. And I talk to them and say, well, have you got life insurance? I go, yeah, of course I've got life insurance. Is your house insured? Yeah, of course my house is insured. Well, why don't you take insurance out against mitigating this effect at your mine site, a high wall failure or a stope collapsing, things like that. Because most things are preventable. Not everything is preventable by any means, but you can load the odds in your favour. And I think the financials around loading the odds in your favour in a mining operation are just underdone in industry, but we have work to do. So it's on us. It's on the technology providers to properly articulate that back to the industry.
Well, looks and sounds to me like you guys are out there doing a bloody good job. You're all across the world. You're leading the charge. It's amazing.
Yeah, and look, we've acquired, or will have acquired, 5 different companies by the end of this financial year. So we keep increasing the remit of the services we can provide to the industry.
Beautiful.
And bringing in a lot of these technologies which are related to that very discussion.
Well, Dave, my last question for you, mate.
Yeah,
you've given me so much information to think about. One of the coolest things that I take away from these is, obviously, once the editing's done, and Dimitri's done an amazing job of putting photos and videos and everything in, and I go back and I sit there and watch it. Unfortunately, hear my horrific voice all over again during the editing.
Shocking rewatching yourself.
It's terrible, mate. It's terrible, but it's part of the editing, and that's what we do as a team. So I'm things that we discuss now. When I'm going back and watching it again, I'm thinking, oh shoot, I didn't totally understand that. I'll look it up or do a bit of research of my own, and I'm learning something. It's bloody fantastic. So look, thank you very much. My last question for you is, what is the best bit of advice that you've given or received?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm more likely to hand it out than receive it. It's been how I've gone through life. I often tell young people, and again, looping back a little bit to what we're talking about, if you want to be an entrepreneur, then just do it. Just say yes. Say yes more often.
Yeah.
People talk to you about some shit thing you never heard of, and just as long as it's rational, just say yes. Don't live your life in the middle of the bell curve.
Go into that. Explain that to me.
Most people do. The vast majority of people do. But if you really want to do something, get out to the edges of the bell curve. And I say, but if you're going to go out to the edge on the positive side, cover the negative. So be a scenario thinker. So if I'm going to move myself out to the positive edge of the bell curve to make something happen, then make sure you're covering your ass on the other side, right? So do a bit of scenario planning. Just don't have one.
I love that.
Just don't have one bow to your arrow. But get out there and do it. put yourself in the way of things happening to you. So serendipity is an interesting concept. So I say to people, get out, learn things, push yourself out to the edge of the bell curve, talk to people, learn things, be open. I think the most valuable type of intelligence is what I call a peripheral intelligence. So if you can see things in your peripheral vision that other people don't see, in a way it's sort of being serendipitous, but you're engineering yourself to be able to take advantage of a serendipitous event. You think of a lot of the really positive things that happen to people, and they've done this and they've done that. Many other people, more so than the ones you think about, will have been exposed to that same opportunity, but
They
not
just
seen
haven't
it,
pulled the trigger on it.
not pulled the trigger or not seen it for what it was. Right?
Yep.
So educate yourself, make sure that you have a chance of spotting that serendipity. Increase your surface area is another way of saying it. Just be out there, And I get people want to work from home, but man, you are not going to be an entrepreneur working from home.
Oh,
right?
working from home is the bane. Look, we don't do it. We don't do it anywhere here.
Yeah.
But working from home, you probably get some. I'll probably get some fallout from some people saying, "Well, there's nothing wrong with working from home,"
I would say
in some
that's
roles,
fine.
maybe if you're working in the bank or something, but horses for courses. But I'm a firm believer in making sure everyone's getting together, because a collaborative work environment is a strong work environment. I might put that on a fucking t-shirt or something.
One to many, right?
Yeah.
So my comment there would be, if you want to stay in the middle of the bell curve, do that.
Yeah, for sure.
That's not pushing you out to the edge. So just get out to the edge of the bell curve. Say yes more often.
So many guests that we've had on the podcast, people in positions that I never thought I'd be sitting in the same room with. They all say the same thing. It's just the same thing over and over again. Say yes, say yes, say yes.
Yep.
The more time you say no, all those times you say, oh, no, maybe not, that's not for me. Obviously, it's got to have a bit of an educated guess, but at the end of the day, the more times you say yes, you're exposing yourself to more things.
Yep.
The opportunities become endless.
Yeah, and they grow exponentially.
Yeah, I love it.
If you don't do that, you're not going to be exposed to it.
That's right.
You live your life in the bell curve. There's a quote.
Bloody oath, mate. I love that. That's going on a t-shirt. All right, Dave, look, thank you very much, mate, for coming and spending the time with us. I've really enjoyed this episode. I enjoy most of them. Some I enjoy more than others. And this is one of those ones, mate. So thank you very much.
Cheers, Josh. It was a pleasure.
Not a problem. Well, I hope you liked this episode. If you're a bloody geologist out there, a geophysicist, a scientist of any means, make sure that you're talking to your young family and friends and getting them involved. Try and unlock some education in some young kids these days. Get them away from the technology and into some technology. Thanks very much for tuning in to another great episode. I've really enjoyed this one, so I hope you do too. Cheers.